Thank you so much for joining me today for our Journey to Success series. My name is Sim and I'm the head of content here at Unlimit. And I would absolutely love if you could introduce yourself and your role and your professional career so far.
Thank you, Sim. Well, very happy to be here and appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. So for the audience, my name is Julie Armstrong. I am based in Chicago. I am the General Manager, VP of Industry Solutions and Global Partnerships at Convera. Convera is an international payments platform. We serve about 25,000 customers around the world, helping them make money move. So that's what I do today. And then did you want me to go in, Sim, to more of the journey of my career or pause there?
I would love that. I think people would definitely benefit from knowing about what else you have been up to that's led you to this point.
So let's see. I have a 20 plus year career in financial services for the most part. Like I said, I'm based in Chicago. However, I'm originally from Kentucky. So I need to shout that out a little bit. To the home state. After Kentucky, because my career journey really starts kind of, obviously college and beyond, went to University of Kentucky and was afforded an opportunity to go study in France. Then loved it so much, wouldn't leave, went and studied in Italy, then moved to New York briefly, then the West Coast in Oregon, popped over to Hong Kong for about a year, and then landed in Chicago. And I say all of that because the primary reason for moving around was language learnings, if you will, and then just kind of life moving me around a little bit, the States, and then across to a couple other countries. So it was a really great way to kick off kind of my start to adulthood, if you will. But in my mid-20s, I settled into Chicago and really was looking for a career starter. And wanted to be in finance. That's at least what I thought. And so found a job at a small software company, about 200 and some people, I think at the time, privately owned. And the software company was an execution platform for algorithmic trading across tier one banks. Was a phenomenal way, to enter the business because small company selling into large institutions gave me a great way to learn the business, if you will. About 3 years in, so I started as an account manager, I should say that. About 3 years in, we actually got bought by a little company known as Lehman Brothers. And Lehman was actually one of my accounts. And so it was just a real shocker when they came in and purchased us, but absolutely a delight. And I would say one of a huge career catalysts for me personally, because I was covering their account. And as a result of that, it afforded me a really nice position working with the Lehman Brothers team in the equities realm. So phenomenal opportunity, worked with them for 3 years. Unfortunately, those 3 years ended in 2008, the financial crisis. So pretty big situation that hit, everyone involved, and it was pretty devastating all around. However, we were owned by the equity side, and luckily we rebounded, if you will, and Barclays stepped in and bought the entity. So the software company remained and played. And in fact, a lot of the Lehman Brothers people stayed on and went over to Barclays, and we had some continuity for some years. So was at the software company doing a mix of roles, account management into sales, and then sales management for about 9 years. And at that point, I felt like I'd reached a bit of a ceiling there and wanted to propel, onward into another foray in the financial markets. Realized I didn't know much about the futures market, and CME Group, which is the largest futures exchange, was literally across the street from the office that I was at for 9 years. And I really intentionally thought, I'm going to go and work for CME Group. That's what I wanted to do. Looked around, found a role that was open that suited my technology sales acumen, because that's what I've really been focused on for my entire career. And that was the beginning of my 8-year career at CME Group. Very high level there, started to do business development in their co-location services department. And in fact, it was a starter department, meaning they were launching the business. The business did not exist. And that was a pretty unique role to step into, because there was an ability to really create not only the customer journeys, but the customer ecosystem within the co-location and data center service. That really dominoed into the ability to step into other technology sales aspects of CME Group, including market data, software sales, and more. And so I was afforded the opportunity to then take on all of technology sales at CME Group. And then after a couple of years, I ran tech sales and product. So absolutely loved my career at that organization. It also afforded opportunities to launch with several other women, a women's initiative network. It was the first employee network at CME Group, and it was also focused around women in the organization. So really wonderful opportunity. And then I launched a technology conference called CME's Tech Talk there, which I think was probably my proudest thing. So that was 17 years of my career. Why did I go CME? Well, I was ready to really challenge myself after that period of time. Really felt like I was missing some attributes career-wise that I wanted to go and ascertain. So I jumped over to a company at the time called ChartIQ, now called Mosaic. And they were a company I was on the board of, actually. So they were a startup, about 70-person company, was a chart visualization tool and had a desktop interoperability tool. Worked with the two co-founders, CEO and CTO, for several years. Loved it, learned a lot about the startup mentality, and really how to accelerate, goals and things when you were really fighting to get market share and fighting to really make a name for yourself in a very big financial institutional pond. A couple years later, I got knocked on, my door was knocked on by an IoT company. It's not quite out of left field, but much more far afield than what I had been operating in the financial services realm. But I really embraced the opportunity because I knew it was going to open an aperture for me to start selling to different types of customers outside of the financial world. So manufacturing, healthcare, things like that. And I felt like, this is the right next step for me to ultimately sell beyond financial institution, although financial institutions was it's my love, it's my passion, right? So I was there for a couple of years. It was a cellular IoT company, and I was their chief commercial officer, and spent a couple of years until Convera knocked, and really put forth a phenomenal opportunity for me to come in and, work in the industry solutions and partnerships team. I should define industry solutions. I think reflecting back on my career and the aperture opening to other customer types. Industry solutions, I cover NGO, education, payroll, pension, legal, and other verticals, including all of our global partnerships. So it's been a whirlwind to be at Convera. I've been here just over a year. Could not love the company and the opportunity working with the group of people that I work with now to, again, help customers make money move around the world, but the diverse set of customers that are certainly in the macroeconomic scheme of things. It's as an economics major, it's a pretty exciting space for me. So I know that was a long answer. Hopefully that's the depth that you wanted, but that's how I got here.
No, thank you for sharing. It's long, but so interesting. I mean, you have covered such a vast array of work and organizations. And I think I love the fact that at one point you also said, like, the reason why you would force yourself to leave somewhere is because you knew that you had gaps or areas that you would like to focus on. And I think that's so important, to sort of like pushing ourselves and ending up in a place where we feel more confident in our skill set, it's very inspiring. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
My pleasure. One thing that I would love to know is, being in the roles that you have been and sort of working in and around like IoT space and financial spaces, we've seen so much change and almost like a revolution in the idea of tech and payments. I would love to know from your experience how you have seen the importance of tech and payments arise in brands and business needs.
I'll be shorter in my answer, but this could be a whole program of a response if I'm honest with you. So listen, as I said a couple minutes ago, I have made my entire career around the commercialization of technology, and with a heavy focus on FinTech. So it's definitely my passion. The first thing that I'll say is that, really when I started learning about the deep impacts that tech to scale was impactful, was really around my days at CME Group. And there, was a product manager that I worked very, very closely with for many years. And, he really educated me a lot around the cloud capabilities. And this was, 2012, 2013, when, I would say, gosh, long time ago, longer than I'd like to admit ago, but where the industries were not sold that cloud was safe, right? We were, talking about private and public and hybrid cloud and stuff. And one of the things that happened at CME is that we started adopting cloud pretty early. And we were adopting the use of it so that it could, be used to host a huge amount of data and then distribute that data to scale to our global customers around the world, and do that much more efficiently and effectively, not only from a delivery model, but also how we commercialized it, right? And, I have to say that was a position that I would walk around and talk globally to different customers about, hey, we're going to do this. And what we started seeing is other exchanges were like, hey, well, how are you doing this? And how do you want to, cooperate and collaborate? And so the first thing I would say is that, as these industries, all industries are looking to scale, right? And so what are those embracing the technologies that help you enable to facilitate that is huge, right? And so you have to kind of go in it without fear, and you have to be working with people who have an understanding, right, of its capabilities and of its potential risks, if you will. But then you got to bring your customers along, right? And so I think that's hugely important. So that's when I saw your question, that was the first kind of example that I could give. But I think that when you think about also customers companies, need to scale through partnerships, right? How do you do that? Well, you've got to have API integrators, right? Got to have tech integrations, like embedded, technology. I think in all industries, seeing kind of how there's different players in the ecosystem and understanding how you can adapt to those players, where those players could potentially fill gaps to where you can give customers a much more robust offering, right? So I think in IoT, I can tell you that a lot of the game was like stacking that tech, right? So you started seeing a lot, the 2 years that I was in it, there was a lot of partnerships, right? You didn't just sell connectivity. You sold the connectivity, the software, the hardware, right, to help enable that IoT solution. So I think that customers, in today's world, and this is true in the payments industry too, they want someone who can provide a solution, kind of a one-stop, right? And so the enablement to do that is through technology, and it's through partnerships and the technology that enables those partnerships, right? Because it's very, very expensive and very time consuming to build everything yourself. But I think, I've been lucky to work with companies who really strike a balance of what are we going to build and what are we going to buy and where are we going to partner. And I find myself at the center of that here at Convera.
That's so interesting. I mean, thank you for sharing, first of all. And I think it's very interesting. I think working on the other side of things, so from an end consumer perspective, especially, we never think twice about, as long as we're able to achieve the purchase of goods and services that we need to, you never find people sort of exploring the back end of what is actually happening. But being in the tech space, seeing the demand for solutions and innovations, and very much, like you said, stackable products, and it's such a rife industry, and it is accelerating at a rate that is unprecedented, because even working in the fintech space, I think people naturally think that there is a fintech provider who's providing everything, but very much like you said, they're taking, okay, we're going to build this much, but then in order to be able to launch to market or to accelerate our growth, we're going to need to buy this and collaborate with these organizations. And there is such a growing demand for payments and payment solutions which are driven by technology, particularly where we have so much cross-border activity. It's incredible, but it's also, I feel like it's something that, as much as I love to wrap my head around it, it's almost quite difficult because it evolves so quickly.
Well, and it's true. And I think, a couple of facets just I forgot to mention is that the sheer globalization, right, of the payments industry, right? And that globalization is not without regional needs, right? So you've got the need to have the money movement, right, all over the world, but then regionally you've got certain, licensings or sanctions you need to pay attention to, or, different technologies that you need to flex upon. And so it's highly relevant to understand kind of how you can, what's the macro, and then where do you have the kind of micro pieces of the tech living, and how do you need to adapt to that, running a global business. I mean, I also thought through, this question a little bit with regards to like making money still move kind of through COVID, right? I mean, think about like where the world was a few years ago, right? And thankfully, we had a lot of technology advancements. We were able to kind of keep the world running, right? Even though we were mostly doing it from our home. So tech has such a stake in everything that we do every day, whether you realize it or not, consumer to business.
So thank you so much for sharing. That was very, very insightful. And I think you've already sort of started to touch on it, particularly in your introduction, but I would love if you could share with our viewers and myself about how to stay up to date with the changes that we're seeing within the industry and the innovations that are occurring to ensure that there is continued success in your role, because there is so much evolution and so much growth. And as a leader, you almost are a pinnacle of education for other teams and members of the organization.
100%. And so there's no perfect formula for this. And I would say, but my very first answer when I read your question was customers. I mean, I've not had a 20+ year career serving customer base in a commercial role without fiercely guarding my time with customers. And so that's how I learn, what are their problems? What other technologies and partners are they looking at? Where else are they, navigating their businesses? So I'd say that's one of my first aspects. I think with all organizations, it's also your colleagues, right? We've got some incredibly smart people around Convera. So I ask questions all the time. What are you working on? Who are you working with? I saw this name of this company. What are they doing? Right. So there's this use in-house, right? Use your people around you. We have advisors in economics and things in our marketing and research teams. Tap into those resources. Conferences, huge, right? The right conferences, I'll say, not just casting a huge net with that, but you got to walk around and kind of see the various players. And, that's one of the things you've got to look for. Yes, the big players and what are they doing, but also what are the unicorns doing? Who are the unicorns? What problems are they trying to uniquely solve? So I think kind of having that conference circuit. Certainly readings, we're fed and we work with some research providers here. So I do a lot of reading, especially in my specific vertical segments. There's lots of trends and news coming out specifically in the education marketplace. So seeing what's going on in, policies in Australia versus Canada versus India, et cetera. So, it's such a wide range. But I would say customers getting in the field first and foremost has always been my best friend for education.
From a logical perspective, that makes perfect sense, because your customers are the people literally living the experience, and they're the ones who are describing what evolution is needed, what products are needed, what services their customers are needed in a B2B world. So no, that's very insightful. Thank you. Being in our Journey to Success series, of course, I love to celebrate and look at the successes of our amazing guests like yourself. However, I think there's also an element of honesty that I would love to explore, and that's around the journey in itself and sort of the concept of failures and setbacks. And I would love to know how you personally, throughout your career, as amazing as it has been, I'm sure there are moments where you've maybe felt like it wasn't perfect or it didn't live up to an expectation. How do you deal with those moments of setbacks or failures, and what lessons have you learned from those experiences?
That's a great question, and one that got me thinking. Setbacks and failures are a part of life. They're a part of your personal life. They're a part of your professional life. I am somebody who is not afraid of that. And I would say that, in all honesty, I think they all make you stronger. And, I've had tons of them, right? On a professional level. I wouldn't say that moving over to IoT was a failure, but I would say that it was terrifying for me, because I was very in tune with the financial services, FinTech arena. I was very known in the circuits, right? I could go to conferences. I knew everyone. I knew all the players. I had been a pioneer in some parts of that world. And so I felt very afraid, acknowledging internally that I really did need to continue my journey of learning and figuring out more. I wanted, like I said, a wider aperture of customer base, of tech, but it was really scary. And I got over to the IoT organization and felt like, oh, okay, not only do I have a learning curve in the organization, but I've got a learning curve in the industry, which I had not experienced in quite a while. And that was, a setback for me, right? I was used to being in kind of command of software execution, vendors and data sets and, exchange and how cloud and all these things like applied to the financial services. But I really had to sit back, learn, observe, listen, and then figure out how to engage. And mind you, I had started that role as the chief commercial officer. So I already had tens and tens, almost 100 people, right? Collectively in sales and marketing and service, really relying on me to set the tone and direction and the strategy. And in order to do that, I had to learn very quickly. And I think that it was a setback, right? But I wouldn't say it was a failure, but it was a setback. But it also gave me a tool to say, you've got to learn quickly. How are you going to do that? And really set intentions and priorities of what I had to learn and how I was going to go about learning it pretty quickly. But it was something that the imposter syndrome, right? You're sitting there going, oh my goodness, like, have I taken on too much? And I ended up with an incredible team, learning an incredible amount in the industry. But, it was, to me, it felt awkward. Right. It felt awkward to be in that. I will say that I chose to come back to the financial services because I felt that I really missed that part of industry. But you'll see that I'm not in the same kind of financial services realm of that industry. I really continue to want to explore and expand kind of the operations around, different types of FinTech, i.e. in the payment services. So I think setbacks make you stronger. I think they really allow you to figure out who your champions are, right? Who are your professional champions to tell you it's okay? Who are your personal champions, right? To tell you that it's okay. And so everyone has them. If you lean into your failures, I think that's the best thing that you can do. If you lean out, you're probably going to fall down or fall out of the boat, as they say. But I've been one that I get back up, I dust off, and I keep on going. So
I adore that answer. Thank you so much for your honesty. I think it's such a poignant message, because I think sometimes there can be a slight disillusionment when we see people that have lived amazing career paths, and we sit there, and even like myself, I'm surrounded by people of extremely positive and ambitious careers, much like yourself. And even I can sit here, and as you said, there's that element of imposter syndrome where you're like, wow, these people have done such amazing things, like how on earth would I possibly get there? But I adore the fact that everyone is so honest and truthful about the fact that there are moments of self-doubt and how they overcome those, and the way that, as you said, you lean into those experiences because they are just as fruitful and just as ironically rewarding as it is as to have a moment of success, because you get to learn something, or it builds a different relationship, or it changes your perspective and the way you approach situations for the better. So it's very, very important.
Well, look, I believe you've got to believe in yourself, but you've got to do the work. That's really a key. And you can fail, and then you can say, well, hey, okay, what happened there? You've got to be honest with yourself as to what happened. And, maybe it was you didn't learn fast enough. Maybe it was that you didn't try hard enough. Maybe it was that you really should have approached situations differently. But I think you've got to have confidence in yourself, and you've got to do the work. And that's kind of served me well. I've never been afraid to go do the work. The confidence, is there. It goes up and down just like with anyone. But yeah.
I think a part of what you're saying is that sort of that moment of where we perceive failure very much is a moment where we're almost faced with undeniable accountability, where a situation will rear its head, and whether we like it or not, we have to question what part we have had to play in this scenario. And I think that naturally for people who are trying to progress and want to bounce back and evolve, you do naturally question, okay, like how can I change this so next time around it's not happening in the same way? Or how can I challenge my own mindset so it doesn't take me so long to bounce back, for example? And so sort of flipping that on the head, please summarize your top lived tips for succeeding in a commercial career.
I love this question. I have some traditional and some non-traditional answers, right? The first is that I love people. I love engaging a variety of customers across different geographies, cultures, right? I love it. So naturally, I chose a career that allowed me to engage people in the way that I do. And I don't think that's something you can teach people. I think that that's something that, you have in you or you don't, right? And, I have to say that that's one of my things is that, I feel like I can talk to anybody. And, the key to a commercial career is engaging people at where they are. What problems do you have? How do I help solve them as somebody that's trying to bring you solutions to the marketplace? And so I think that would be first off. My non-traditional aspect of my answer is fitness, good health and fitness, knock wood. I really try hard to strike a balance to take care of myself, and my mental acuity is helped through fitness, right? And in commercial roles, people might be going, what is she talking about? It's like, well, but in commercial roles like mine, I have to travel a lot, right? I have to get on calls at 7 a.m. I have to get on calls at 10 p.m., right? And so I feel like you have to show up, right? Knowing that you've given yourself some hours in the day too, to have a good regimen and a good balance, right? I do not strike that every day. There are days that I am mad that I did not get in what I needed to get in, but then there's days where I selfishly, I take it, right? And so I think that that's just hugely important. It's important whether you have a commercial career or not, right? Any career. But I say it in terms of this because of how much travel I have to do. It is very hard on your body, on your sleep, on your health, your diet, right? So I would say that is something that I've been driven to do. And I think you've got to have a balance. You have to have a balance of approach, internal and external, right? To have a commercial. I find myself, I've used the word pioneer several times, right? Because I have been at organizations where I am the person pushing the envelope of we are not doing enough, we are not doing it fast enough, and we need to get it. And I've had that passion. And I'm sure if any of my past managers are listening to this or do listen, they're going to go, yep. But I think in a commercial role, you've got to do that. You have to fight for your customer, and you have to also do the work to understand internal capabilities and constraints of like what you have and what you can deliver and what you can't. Right. And then you've got to be able to strike that balance with the customer of this is what I can do and what I can't. But here's where we imagine new possibilities of the tech. And how do we work together to bring those to bear? And then where do I look in the ecosystem and the marketplace to solve the problem through other ventures like partnerships or, other aspects? So I think there's a lot of balance, right? That you've got to learn how to go from the internal to the external to then the ecosystem and kind of bring those package solutions together for the customer. And so there's a lot there. I know I said voice of customer and fitness, and then kind of bringing it all together. But that's my day, right? That's what I do every day. And that's what I think it takes to do this job and hopefully do it successfully. So let me please not forget to say that build great teams of people who are smarter than you, who have different dynamics and different skills than you. And really, as a leader, this is something that is hugely important. And, I've got my favorite teams that I've worked with over the years. And I will say my favorite teams have a harmony and a rhythm that they get in, and they have a shared love for what we're doing and for the customers. And so I'd say, all those things, right, are deeply important.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's so interesting that you put up the idea of sort of finding for you personally, it's the fitness element. And ironically, it's actually something I hear quite often, particularly in this series, I think, where people are so dedicated to their roles. They almost it's an outlet of expression in its own way. I know people take it creatively, people take it physically through like fitness, and there's so many different ways that people can practice and exercise those. I do think it is very important, because in order to be able to truly bring your whole self to work and feel rejuvenated and still keep your passion, you need to have a sense of self. And for you, it's of course the fitness element. And I think that way you're able to come to work and, as you said, develop those amazing teams that you have, and you're able to upskill them. You're able to bring the best version of yourself to them and to your customers, and to be able to have the energy to fight the fight for the customers.
Yeah.
So it's very, very notable. So thank you so much. This may sort of interlink ever so slightly, but I would love to know if you could share with us some strategies that you have used for your personal and your professional development throughout your career.
Yeah, happy to. I'll draw back on CME and give them credit that they were excellent at providing training for their leaders and for their mid-managers and for their individual contributors. And so I really subscribe to companies who have very solid training programs that bring some external forces, right, to engage you to think differently, right? Because it's also so easy to sit in an organization and kind of hum along and, be in an echo chamber. But I love it when organizations kind of bring in some third parties. And this is something Convera is also working on, doing, and we've been doing over the last couple of months at an executive level. But I would say that, I really, when I saw this question, I was like, well, I'm very appreciative of that aspect of my days at CME. But I would say most notably for me, and this is at the center of my career and has been since I started, is finding a women's network. This is a lifeblood for me. And I will say that at 26, 7 years old, when I showed up to a Deutsche Bank conference called Women on Wall Street, I was pretty wowed by the women in the room and the names on the list and their credentials. And I was like, wow, how do I get here? Right. And ever since then, I've really been impassioned to find strong women who want to network, women who want to collaborate, women who are supporters in the financial services. Because, when I started in it in early 2000s, it was not the majority were men, right? And that's okay, right? It's but that's also, you find yourself kind of the only one in the room sometimes, and you're like, okay, I got to think a little differently here, right? But I've really been lucky. I mean, CME again facilitated the Women's Initiative Network. That was me and several other women, that ignited that. I've been blessed that through COVID, I was afforded the CEO of Cosaic let me sign up for a women's initiative run by a woman out of London. And it has really been a game changer for me. It was a senior executive women's forum where there was mentoring, there was networking, there was coaching. We all collaborated on a book a couple of years ago, a year ago. My gosh, a couple of years ago, time flies. And those women, they know who they are. They've been my supporters. I'm theirs. And that has been a huge aspect of my career and kind of a go-to for me. I also think my family, being honest with them about what I want out of a career and the time I have to spend to get it, and that I'm still here for them, and mom number one, right? And just being a part of my family, and striking that balance too. But I'm very passionate about all those things.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, one thing that I have to say, I think it's so admirable, the very clear commitment and dedication that you have to people. It's very evident, as you said, like the passion that you have for your family and to supporting other women. And that's also something that sits very, very closely with my heart. I'm very, very passionate about uplifting and engaging and intertwining sort of the stories and narratives that other women have. I think it's so important, but it's so admirable. And it even comes across, of course, in your career, because working on the commercial side, you're looking at people and people's experience. And I think it's just something so notable, and it's so worthy of commendation, because it's a lovely trait to have, and it's you've managed to build a career off it, and it's phenomenal because your passion and your inspiration behind it is very evident. So it's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you, Sam. That's very kind of you to say.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for sharing those sort of like, they're almost like tips in a way, because I think people will be able to resonate with different elements of that. And it's clear that it fuels your fire, which is phenomenal. I can't believe I'm already on my last question for you, but this is my ultimate favorite one because it's so open-ended. You can take it however you like it. But I ask everybody who joins this series, and it is simply, how do you define success?
Yeah, I love this question too. So I'm going to break it up in two parts. So, we've been talking a lot about my career, and I've injected a bit of my family in here, but I'm going to say that ultimately my definition of success is that I have a healthy and happy family, that I'm healthy and happy, right? And so that's really first for me, that the people in my life that are here for me day to day, that we're healthy and happy, and we all strike a balance, right? Of everybody going to school and their sports and work and all the things. So I wanted to start off by saying that I think having a balance between my personal and professional life is extremely important to me. I don't strike that balance eloquently every day. I don't strike it eloquently every week. But on the whole, I think I do. At least I strive to. So I would say that to me is a key. I think from a success from a professional level, to me, again, back to the harmonization. I mean, I love my team today, right? They know I do. I love getting up and engaging them and problem solving. And we've been problem solving, right? And we've also been kind of focused on innovation and where are we going. And it's been really exciting to kind of see that there's like people with diversity, right? But like common wants coming together and in a harmonious way across my team. And I really feel like that is exuded through the outlets of our customers, right, into our customers. So to me, kind of just having that harmony between the company, the customers, the ecosystem, and feeling like we're really making a difference, right, across the different industries that we're operating in is very rewarding to me. I like to engage people on that level, like solve problems, like have people want to show up and be energetic about what they're doing every day. And then just having this really rich customer base that we get to operate within on a global level. So, I mean, to me, that's success, but it comes back to your family, your health, your happiness, because I feel like, I want them both. I want the family, I want the career. And, that's hard to do sometimes, when you're living on an airplane. And then sometimes you're not, you're doing interviews out of your home, hoping your dogs don't bark while we're on camera here. And I have goals, like what success, I think, I want to do what I love for a really long time. And then there's other things that I love that I want to do eventually. So I think success is being happy in the moment, setting goals for yourself and achieving those goals, and continually evolving, right? That's also really important to me, evolving myself, my kids, my family, my teams, my customers, right? So thanks for that question. It was a little all over the place, but it's a tough one. It's a big question.
No, I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. It was a very wholesome answer, both the personal and the professional element. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's so worthy of knowing what it is that is fueling people to carry on and how they are measuring success. For some people, it may be what they're able to achieve in their career. For others, it's personal achievements and self-development. And for others, it may be family or traveling. It can literally be anything. And that's why I like to ask the question, because it can be so diverse. So thank you for being so honest and so open. I can't believe it already marks the end of our time together. It has absolutely flown by. I know that we were sitting here both saying how worried we were. Our dogs may interject, and
we did it.
I know, we did it. And I am so, so grateful to you for making the time to speak with me today and share your story through our Journey to Success series, because it's incredible. And what you have achieved already in, I know you may say feels like a very long time, but to me, it sounds like only a short window of years and months that you've been able to achieve such a phenomenal career. And so you sharing that it's amazing. And just to be able to inspire even one person would be so, so beneficial. And I'm just eternally grateful for you and to Convera to join us today and just sort of bring light to your journey and the opportunities that lie there for people.
Thank you so much, Sam. I would just say to the audience, do what you love. And if you don't love it, then find what you love to do, because I think it's really important. I think that's how you show up your best self. I don't love it every day, but the overall love is there, right? And that's what I would say to everybody. But thank you so much for your questions and your interest and your time today and the opportunity to speak with you. It's been a pleasure. So.